Performance Plus presents the Summit Club Podcast, your business roundtable discussion for sales and business leaders, with your host, Bill Statz.
Hi, it's Bill Statz, and welcome to the Summit Club Podcast, a business roundtable. Today is a book review. I'm with one of the Summit Club partners, Rick Feinblatt. Morning, Rick.
Good morning, Bill.
And what we want to talk about today is a book that was written in 1899 called A Message to Garcia by Elbert Hubbard, Hubbard. And the gist is the idea in not just sales, but in business life. Many are called, but few are chosen. It sometimes is a lot harder than it might seem. And one of the boundaries of success that we're going to talk about is, do you have a go-to person? Is there somebody on your team or somebody that works for you that you can rely on to be the person that's going to help you be successful and do whatever it takes? That's basically the story. If you read A Message to Garcia, it's back in McKinley's presidency in the Spanish-American War, and the long story short is, got to get a message to this guy Garcia who's somewhere in Cuba. And what the decision needed to be was who's going to get the message there, and it was Colonel Andrew Rowan. So he's the model of a go-to guy. So with that being said, I'm going to let Rick kind of give some perspective to his experience with a go-to person, the person that you could always rely on in getting things done. What do you think, Rick?
Well, before I do that, this is, you can read this. It is a book. It comes in book form, but I think it's like 20 pages long, so you can read it in like 15, 20 minutes. And I think I must have been living under a rock, because when you mentioned it to me last week, you sent me an email, and I looked at it and went, what's wrong with Bill? What's he even talking about? And then you brought me a copy, and I read it, and I think, your lead into this is pretty accurate. And by the way, there are go-to people at all levels. Whatever organization that you're working in, there are managers, there are assistants, there are all kinds of people that you work with. So this isn't just necessarily one go-to person in your organization who can do everything for you. For those of us that have had a great assistant who anticipates your needs, who's somebody who just does stuff because, he or she knows you and they know what kind of things you're trying to get accomplished, it saves you so much time. If it's at the management level where you have someone who's not asking 4,000 questions about every discussion you have, who can actually just go out and get something done. It's such an asset to you and your organization. And I think most places have them. I know some don't. And if you're working at a place where you don't have a Rowan, you should really, really work hard to try to find one and develop one.
Well, it's funny when you talk about that, and I'm just Rick and I have worked together for a long time, off and on, whatever. And so, as an example, a practical example, you can go on the website and see the team bio and kind of see what we look like. But we have been Rowans for each other over our lifetime. Peers, you may have a peer that you just don't have a good sense of commitment to each other, that you could be the Rowan, be the go-to person for that other person. And again, when I was working with Franklin Covey, one of the big focuses was synergy. How do you get 1 + 1 to equal 3? Well, a lot of times it's because of that relationship, the chemistry that you have with other people. And to me, that's one of the catalysts for the Rowan, the go-to person, that Rick and I, in any aspect of life, can have, whether it's, I don't want to say assumed, or whether we actually have to say, I got your back. Where can you find one? Because you'll be a lot stronger for it if you can find someone, whether they report to you, maybe even your boss could be a Rowan for you, smooth a path for you, make the difference between how quickly you can get to the next level because they're on your side. And so from that standpoint, that's why I'd suggested to Rick, maybe sometimes we forget about the power, the horsepower that exists in having that kind of commitment from somebody underneath you.
Yeah, and I think, I'm thinking about this while you're speaking, Bill. I think to some degree you can cultivate a Rowan. And what I mean by that is if people are working for you, sometimes they need to know that it's okay to take chances. It's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to do what they think needs to be done to help you. A lot of people are, whether they should be or they shouldn't be, or whether you want them to be intimidated by their boss. If you're their boss, some of it's just human nature. And, if they know they have permission to go out and do what needs to be done on your behalf, that will, I think, empower some people who certainly have the capability to be a Rowan to actually turn themselves into one. So make sure you're not preventing somebody from helping you in that way, where they're sitting around waiting for you to tell them what to do when you're very, very capable of doing it for them without their permission.
That's a really good point, because just think about the dialogue in my self-talk when Rick's talking about that, where you go out of your way to commit more to whatever the task is, and that little extra, and it doesn't work quite right, or the way you intended, and you get reamed. You get somebody just bust your ass. How often are you going to try that again? And, to me, what I just wrote down when Rick was saying that is, you learn by losing. You learn when you make mistakes. When everything goes great, that's when you celebrate. That's when you pat yourself on the back or whatever. But the real hard work is when things don't work out quite right. And if you're trying to establish that kind of a Colonel Andrew Rowan thing, go-to person with somebody, and they try to go the extra measure and it doesn't work quite right, and you ream them.
Yeah.
Guess what?
They're not doing it again.
They're not doing it again.
Exactly.
So it's not like you have to go outside the organization necessarily, but if you're recruiting, you may want to think, is this person have the potential to be a go-to person? Or let's just get it done, move on, get it done, move on. If you can, to Rick's point, I think it's a lot more valuable to grow from within and find somebody that's around you, over you, under you, next to you, and have some kind of a relationship where they could be your Rowan, and make sure that message gets to Garcia, whatever it is, whatever it takes, no excuses. Seems like something that all of us could embrace.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. One of my favorite quotes from the book is the following: if men will not act for themselves, what will they do when the benefit of their effort is for all?
It's really good. And again, Rick's not kidding you. It's just really a little book. I mean, this isn't something you read on an airplane. This is something you read while you're standing in line to check in, going through TSA. But it doesn't make it less valuable.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes the best messages, are the simplest. And this is, again, a pretty simple message. And, it's, if you're standing in line for TSA, you'll finish this book well before you get through the line. I can tell you that much.
And it's almost like it doesn't matter where you open the page to, There's not even a page number on what I'm looking at now. And it says self-interest prompts every employer to keep the best, those who can carry a message to Garcia. So the language is a little bit 19th century or whatever, but it's true. Self-interest, every employer is going to keep the best people. What are you kidding me? And sometimes that's the ones that can carry the water, get the message to Garcia. The first organization you got to manage is you. And if you can do that in support of somebody else, or find someone that can support you, it's a home run. Take a message to your own Garcia. Thanks for tuning in. SummitClubPodcast.com. Leave us a message on the website if there's something that you think we need to cover, content that you want us to explore, or just a request for further information. Reach out, let us know. With that being said, we'll hear from you next time.
To learn more about the Summit Club podcast, please find us online at www.summitclubpodcast.com. The Summit Club podcast is recorded and produced by Inertia Marketing and Design, a full-service marketing, digital and graphic communications agency. You can find them at www.inertia.marketing. Thanks for listening to the Summit Club podcast, and we'll see you at the top.